Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take good care. Monstrum is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe for every update. In 1506, during Korea's Joseon dynasty, the 10th king, King Yonsun, was overthrown by opponents and Yeongjong became the new ruler. However, those who had helped him gain power rebelled against him, causing anarchy in the country. Amidst the chaos, people are brutally dispatched by security guards who believe they are infected with an unknown plague, but one woman manages to save her young daughter before she dies. The girl suffers from the loss of her mother, but when there are no more people around her, her guardian comes to her rescue. At the temple, the Prime Minister tells everyone present that a mysterious creature has recently appeared that is hunting people on MT. Inwang. The creature was called a monster and kings were asked not to spread rumors about its veracity. King Yeongjong addressed the Prime Minister and claimed that he was the one who started the rumors to pressure the villagers and remove the Prime Minister from power. The minister advises him to think twice about his actions, as his cheating and modesty created the monster itself. The king is surprised at how confident he speaks and talks about finding someone he can trust to investigate the rumor and prove it wrong. In the forest, two clumsy hunters, brothers Sunghan and Yoongjam, argue over whether the beast is real or not. Sunghan falls into his trap, but is discovered by Yoongjam's daughter Myung, who mocks her uncle's incompetence. The trio spends their days quietly hunting and fishing, even though they can only catch enough to feed themselves. Myung offers to drive to Hanyang City, but she declines, thinking that Yoongjam will be fine as is. Disappointed, she goes to the field, but she is soon asked about the former commander of the royal guards by a man she doesn't know, which confuses Myung. She pointed a bow and arrow at the man, and she claimed that no such person lived there. When Sunghan arrives and surprises her, she accidentally fires an arrow at the stranger, which he easily avoids. Turning around, Myung spots a handsome young man with whom she falls in love. The boy introduces himself to Yoongjam as Officer Hyo, and he reveals that he and Sunghan were once high-ranking commanders. Ho talks about the amazing fighting abilities they once had, but Myung can't believe the story. The king suddenly appears, and everyone is confused. He and Yoongjam talk about their past, and it is revealed that Yoongjam was a soldier who took Myung in when she was a child, rebelling against the king and opposing his genocidal acts. The king's followers were convinced that the girl was infected with the plague and that she should be exterminated. Despite this, Yoongjam explains that the plague can be transmitted through sight alone, but after not being affected by the girl, he believes that everything was fake and that innocent lives were lost in vain. The guards take up arms against the man and brand him a traitor, but the king stops them before he can attack, and Songhan appears and tells the king that his brother's intentions are not bad. Disappointed and saddened, the king spares their lives, but orders them to leave and never return. Yoongjam holds out his sword and leaves, taking his brother and the girl with him. In the present, King Yeongjong tells his former commander that rumors about the monster are causing trouble and offers him a sword in exchange for his return. After thinking about it all night, Yoongjam agrees to go to Hanyang, much to Myung's excitement. Sunghan tries to convince his brother to stop, but his brother has already made his decision, and Sunghan ends up accompanying him as a substitute. The cheerful Myung also accompanies them on the trip, but the two are irritated by it. In the forest, a shaman performs a ritual to appeal to the monster's mercy, but witnesses the monster kill the girl who tried to steal her food. When Myung arrives in Hanyang, he is disappointed by the loneliness and desolation of the capital. During lunch, the group is surprised by Har and is called to a crime scene in the forest. He shows the shaman's body, and Myung notices signs of human struggle at the scene. The only witness is a girl who is a thief, and she blames everything on the monster. Yoongjam becomes suspicious of her girlfriend and follows her along with Sunghan. The two break up when the girl meets a mysterious man. While Sunghan loses track of the man, Yoongjam follows the girl knowing she is lying about her own story. She said that although it was all the mystery man's fault, the monster was still a real and dangerous threat, as no one would dare to climb mountains in search of resources anymore for fear of being attacked. The group gathers to analyze the situation, but they are interrupted by a disfigured man who causes an uproar in the village, claiming that the monster has attacked him and his men. Before they could ask him anything, the man died in front of everyone. Yoongjam and Sunghan return to the shaman scene and spot one of the shamans on top of a tree, wondering how they got there. Meanwhile, Mayan and Fur examine the man's injured body. The girl doesn't seem to mind this, and Her takes it as a sign of courage. She explains that being at her house was so boring that she read all the books she could get her hands on, and later she learned medical knowledge to become a doctor. Myung out of nowhere tells Hoa that her new mission is to find rats, and the young man is confused. Yoongjam reveals to the king that the deaths were caused caused by humans. The only person who objected was the man with the scar, who claimed to have seen the abomination and questioned his veracity and connection to the plague. He also showed that when he transfused rats with blood samples from the men, the rats died in just half a day, proving the plague's cessability. The king thinks the whole thing is a plot to overthrow him, but Yunjam assures the king that the abomination is real and that he needs to know the truth, as it poses a danger to the people. The king's council requests a tiger hunter to investigate Mt. Nwang. He agrees, but only are asking for 100 of the 700 soldiers available. Before anyone could object, the new search commander Yunjam appeared wearing an old soldier's costume, surprising many. The soldiers begin collecting resources in the city, but this is difficult due to the poverty of the villagers, who cannot survive this season without food. If they are not in sufficient supply, they are used as temporary warriors, but this is difficult as they are not experienced warriors. Samhan finds several boys who claim to be the only males in his family, so he kicks them out of the house, but does not give them food. Yunjam chases the old man away, but there is a long hesitation as he refuses to fulfill his civic duties. Upon closer inspection, Samhan noticed that there was an intruder among the soldiers. Myung believes he is good enough to fight, so he disguises himself as a man to avoid being noticed. Yunjam tells her that this mission is not a game, but before she can add anything, the arrival of the Prime Minister is announced along with Jin Young, the leader of the Tiger Hunters. Everyone begins to investigate, but with no results, and while they debate whether to continue at night, Yunjam decides to do so, as it is known that the creature often appears at that time of day. The hunters and villagers split up to cover more territory, and Samhan, who saw the old man separated from the group, decided to go look for him. He ends up in the middle of a rock wall, but is soon tracked down by members of the group, including Yunjam, Hyo, and Myung, the latter taking an interest in the location. She was so young that she doesn't remember that that's where her mother died all those years ago, the same place where Yunjam saved her. She only asks her father if she has been there before, but her father does not answer. Har finds giant animal footprints leading to the cliff in front of the rock wall. Elsewhere, villagers were leading a march towards the tiger hunters, but suddenly the hunters treacherously attacked the villagers and drove them away. They plan to set off a fake flare to trap the group while Yunjam climbs a cliff to search for the beast. When they try to pull Yunjam up, the enemy starts attacking and it becomes difficult to save Yunjam. Ho and Myung manage to protect themselves, and during the fight, Samhan manages to pull Yunjam up so that Yunjam can start fighting. The four main forces regroup, leaving only them behind. Yunjam orders Myung and Ho to warn the king while he deals with Samhan and the rest of the hunters. The two fight bravely, but when the commander is about to be shot by an arrow, Samhan steps in to save him and takes charge of the attack. Both are captured and surrounded by enemies. Jin Young appears and confesses that the monster does not exist and that the rumors were made up to wipe out the king's subjects and army. The hunters manage to defeat Mayan and Fur as well and unite them. Suddenly, Myung experiences a regression to his past and remembers that it was Jin Young who killed his mother many years ago. He also remembers her from her childhood, but before she can say any more, he throws her and Haru off her cliff, provoking Yunjam's wrath, and vows to take revenge on her Jin Young. Masu. The young couple survived by clinging to a rock during the fall, but there was no hope of safe escape. Jin Young sends another flare, informing the king of the beast's presence, and this serves as an alibi to justify the deaths of all the villagers. A wounded lion-like animal emerged from the cliff and did not flinch, even though multiple arrows were fired at it at once. It will appear on the battlefield in full force and destroy everyone. Samhan and Yunjam manage to escape and decide to save the others. You can find them at the bottom of the cliff. This is the beast's lair and is covered with its victims. They decide to go outside to warn the king, but just then they meet an old man. The old man told them to cover up the smell by painting the nest with slime so they wouldn't notice. The old man tells them that the beast has terrible eyesight but good hearing, so everyone remains silent. They avoid the beast, at least for a while, until Yunjam tells everyone to run through the cave passages. They fall into the river, but the beast no longer pursues them. Back at the base, Jin Young tells the prime minister that the abomination is real, but the minister tells him that was his intention all along. He ordered all the tiger hunters to go to the city and set the city on fire to defeat the king. Several wounded and villagers manage to reach the town, warning them and other villagers of the monstrum's attack. And Jin Young seems to have started a fire, but it gradually spreads and becomes uncontrollable. And led by an old man, the group reaches the sewers of the royal palace, and from there they arrive at Saishunden, a huge prison. And he then explained that the former king of Yensan was fond of exotic animals, so he imprisoned them there. And he previously worked as the king's animal feeder, and claims to have known Monstrum since he was a child, initially calling him Sparkles because of his glowing eyes. And when Yinshan was defeated, they eliminated all the animals except Sparkles, and the old man rescued and freed him, fleeing into the drain, where he ate the food and rotted away. Turning into a giant, it turned into a monster. and everyone is surprised when the monster appears in the living room. But while everyone runs away, the old man stays and distracts the monster so that it remembers when it was Sparkles, and he leads it to a cage with the help of an old rattle, but also traps himself so the others can escape, sacrificing himself to the animal's wrath. And the Prime Minister then orders the tiger hunters to burn everything to get rid of the infected and corpses, but everyone wonders if the king's allies are left in the city. And the main group manages to reach the royal palace, knowing that the monster is among them and must warn the king. And Yoonjaeom does so in private, but is surprised by the Prime Minister and minister's ambush and wounds the king with an arrow. And Yoonjaeom is surrounded, his comrades captured, his royal guard annihilated, and the beast threatens to end it all. And the monster invades the royal family and eliminates the hunters, including Jin Young, giving Yoonjaeom and the king a chance to escape. And Sunghan and Myung pretend to be infected with the plague and run away to find Yoonjaeom. And the beast manages to escape from the royal palace and, despite the best efforts, begins to plunder and turn against all the soldiers. And still, they subdue it with ropes and hooks while Yoonjaeom meets the king and the guards and asks them to take the king to safety. And rather than kill the beast, the minister decides to use it to terrorize the people and usurp the throne. And Yoonjaeom meets with the other members and comes up with a plan to eradicate the beast using explosives and Jojun holes. And then, as his men fell and the prime minister fled, the beast escaped and continued its attack. And the townspeople then try to enter the palace area, but everyone inside tells them to do something else, and the monstrum attacks everyone. And they tried to close the gate to trap the beast, but at that moment the prime minister appeared, angry at such a deliberate action. And however, the people realize the minister's betrayal and turn against him and lock him in the palace. Abomination appears and begins chasing the prime minister and minister. And the prime minister and the minister run up to the top of the wall and show it to all the villagers below. And he tries to bargain with the beast to leave him alone, but the beast attacks and eats him. And Yoonjaeom appears and shoots an arrow, hitting the monster and knocking it to the ground. And Yoonjaeom remembers the old man's words and uses his hearing to guide the animals to the main hall. And meanwhile, Sunghan and Ho pack the place with explosives and prepare for the encounter. And things get complicated when Jin Young reappears and starts a fight. And then Yoonjaeom and Myung meet at the entrance of the royal palace, narrowly avoiding the beast's attack. And he then tells her to come inside while he attracts Monstrum's attention and traps her. And Songhan and Hulu then lose the battle, and when Jin Young tries to finish off Songhan, Haru intervenes and takes a sword blow, but attacks the enemy. And Myung then appears in the room and targets Jin Young, but he uses fur as a shield. And the girl asks him to remember the day they met, and the boy takes the hint and narrowly avoids the arrow. And then Jin Young collapses, and Ho confesses that he will never forget the moment he met Myung. And she yelled to her father that she was ready to explode, so the commander ran one last time and jumped into the Jojin Hall, holding onto the rope and defeating the monster. And Han Sum lights the fire and everyone runs away. And just before it succeeds, the beast manages to extinguish the fuse's flame. And Yoonjaeom then pushes Sunghan away and locks him in the room. And his brother bids farewell and orders Songhan to take care of her daughter. And the beast then encounters Yoonjaeom in battle, but he reaches the explosives and knows what his fate will be. And Myung notices her father's absence and asks him to come back, and an explosion begins. And then the rain extinguishes the flames and the animal closes its eyes one last time in front of the rubble. And everyone grieves Yoonjaeom's death, and the villagers begin to return to the village with the king, witnessing the noble sacrifice of the soldiers. And however, Myung continues searching through the rubble until he finds his injured father. And everyone helps free him from his concrete prison and celebrates being able to finally get rid of the beast. And in the epilogue it is explained that the king moved his residence to another palace, and only after 3 years returned to his previous palace. And as time passes, Myung and Ho become a couple, but they are separated by royal soldiers Yoonjaeom and Sunghan. And the latter asks Yoonjaeom how he survived the temple explosion, and a flashback shows him being lifted into the air by a pulley system just before everything explodes. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.